Welcome back. I'm Mason, as always. Here's Nick.
What's up, everybody? And when I hear that song before every episode, it just gets me pumped.
Yeah, I can't wait till it's a household jingle. Everyone's going to recognize it. Freedom and power taking the world by storm. But this is a pretty interesting episode. Me and Nick are in a hotel room right now because we attended a wedding. Actually, I attended the wedding, but Nick crashed it, the reception.
Yeah, it was okay. The wedding was a lot of fun. The groom knew I was gonna be there, so I didn't show up completely unsurprised. But let's just say I made history. I was that first marriage's argument. So
No, definitely. It's a lot of planning goes in a wedding, so when someone shows up unannounced, kind of throws things off sometimes. But I think he added to it. I think he did.
I danced with the groom.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, guys. But this is going to be an interesting episode. We're going to be talking about Ronda Rousey. It's part of the reason that we didn't release an episode on Friday was because of the wedding, and it was just we were too busy. So don't think that we're going to be fucking up like that a lot. It was a calculated risk. We chose to go and celebrate the beginning of an era.
Well, yeah, that was part of the reason, and there was also some technical difficulties with the episode we recorded for that Friday.
Right.
And then it was just it was messy, but I don't know.
Won't happen again.
Yep. Everything's going to be okay. You guys will live.
But yeah, this episode, Ronda Rousey, interesting woman. We've talked about a few women, haven't we? Not many. We need to talk about more.
Yeah, but we've talked about a few, like Harriet Tubman. We've mentioned others, but
Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, but this is like the first episode completely dedicated to one woman.
Right, and she was breaking boundaries. She's we're gonna talk about a lot of her occupational success, whether it's pretty much all been in sports, but now she's starting to branch out more. But she's broken a lot of boundaries. She's really the full package. She started out as a judo player. If you guys don't know what that is,
you played judo, Mason?
Yeah.
You played judo?
No, yeah. I consider it a fight, but so it's technically a sport. The Koreans will say that they're just playing around, even though they're usually the ones hurting people. But yeah, she started out there. She got an Olympic bronze medal. I believe that was the first medal in judo for a female in America. Yeah. But yeah, so and then I think since then there's been someone has won gold, but that was after she. But once again, who's remembered? It's the one who started it, and that was in 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing. You guys remember that because the air was so dirty that they actually, I believe the Chinese government shut down all like industry and made cars stop driving for like a week leading up to the games to try to clean out the air a little bit. So
I feel like there's been a problem with like some of the past Olympics, like even the one in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
There was I think it was the Zika virus going around.
Yeah.
I feel like we had to choose smarter places to have these events at.
Well, I mean, so the point of the Olympics is to bring people together, you know? So if the Olympics were only in first world places, then if it was just in America and Western Europe, then I don't think it would serve its purpose completely. It's got to be in places that, one, gets, our ties to branch out a little bit, and two, it gives those countries a chance. There's been, for the most part, most of those countries have made money off it. It's developed their infrastructure. I know for the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, they built entire new stadiums and all sorts of new stuff. And I actually did a little research project on it while I was in school. But they are reusing the buildings for like colleges and for some of their local sports teams and whatnot. So I think hosting an Olympics for our country, one, it's a sign of pride, and then two, it actually helps out the country's economy. So,
well, you hear the ideas of them wanting to do an Olympics in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles already packed and busy enough.
right.
I couldn't imagine driving through that during the Olympics.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, then it at least it'd be in the home state, so I'd probably be able to attend it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That'd be cool to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see the best of the best. There's a huge difference between someone that is just really good at a sport and then someone who is next level competing in the Olympics or something like that. And that's what makes Ronda Rousey so interesting is a lot of people would hang their hat on an Olympic bronze medal and become a coach or something, or maybe do nothing and just live their whole lives being proud of something that they deserve to be proud of, and no one's going to take any credit away from them, but that's usually the end. But for her, that was barely the beginning. After she got that bronze, she went on to join the UFC and Strikeforce. What was it? She was in the bantamweight division. She won 12 consecutive MMA fights, including 6 in the UFC, before suffering her first loss to Holly Holmes in 2015. But through those 11 fights, or of those fights, she won 11 in the first round and 9 by armbar, and that kind of shows how she used her judo skills well. So in judo, it's mostly stand-up, but it's very similar to jiu-jitsu. It has very similar ground game, except it's instead of being 100% ground game, there is a big stand-up portion. But either way, she was good enough at these submissions to be able to use them in a more all-encompassing sport, the MMA, where even more is stand-up punching and kicking, and then she was still able to take them down and end it with an armbar. And one thing that I find interesting about her training was that she trained in not low level, but not professional MMA gyms. There are some gyms that are run by MMA champions. You have the Pat Malitek gym. You have a couple in LA. You have a couple up by in Vegas and stuff. But she trained at a local gym in California, the Highest Stand MMA Academy. And the only reason why I know that is because I used to do judo when I was younger. And they really are just like a low, not like low budget, not a whole bad gym, but they're not famous. And that's where she trained to build up her skills to be an MMA fighter. So I don't know what that shows. If it shows that I think what it really focuses on is just her abilities, because she was able to take training that might not be world class, but use it and become world class. And I think it shows a couple things. It shows just how badass she was, but it also should kind of give some inspiration to people to say, hey, you could do it too. Like, you don't, if just because you aren't paying thousands and thousands of dollars to have a personal trainer doesn't mean you can't win. If you have the drive and you have the work ethic and you can just find someone who has the skills and knows how to coach, then you can be the best too.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all work ethic. And another cool thing is, like, she went from one sport and then transitioned to multiple sports in one, MMA. Mm-hmm. And that's very hard for some people to do. Like, there's a lot of good boxers, but they would never be good at MMA because now they have to wrestle, do some judo, jiu-jitsu, all this other stuff. And in order to do that, that's a lot of hard work and just focus.
Well, what you're basically doing is you're coming from a position of power, a position of greatness, and you're accepting that you're going to go back to being a quote-unquote nobody and probably get your face beat in. I'm sure that Ronda Rousey got her ass beat by some nobodies, by some training partners that probably didn't have silver or bronze medals in their back pocket. And she went from probably never being beat in judo ever to getting her face beaten in by some local gym rats as she was training to develop these new skills. And we talk about it often on this show, is that's one of the things that really hinders people from trying something new and and kind of branching out is because they don't want to be at the bottom again. They don't want to like look stupid, or they don't. Yeah, it's the same thing with. It's just mostly adults, right?
Yeah, well, like, and you could translate that to business. You almost anything in the world that requires you to do something new. A lot of people don't like doing new things, moving new places, trying or investing in new things, just because they're worried about the risk of either getting embarrassed or just losing. And that's just like a mental obstacle that people just have to overcome. She had to overcome it, and look where she's at now.
All right.
She's done lots with it. Just her fame from it. She was like one of the most Google search people one year.
Right. Yeah. And not only that, but she was able to start something new, become good at it, and then now it seems that she's comfortable with trying new things because she's done more than a few things. She's she joined the WWE probably through her fame is probably why she got a solid in there. And then now it's full-fledged. Everyone loves her. She's in the Expendables 3. She's in the Fast and Furious 7. Entourage, if you guys know what that is. And there's been more. She's on the cover of the Swimsuit Illustrated. I mean, what she's really done is realized, hey, I can just go out there and be a winner and no one's going to stop me. And that's one of the things that make her so special. It's because it's one thing to be dedicated enough to be good at something. It's a second thing to be dedicated enough to be the best. And then it's a whole nother level when you're being the best in multiple things. And in her situation, it's also to be the first person to break a barrier where there's actual pushback from. If you guys don't know, the owner or manager, president of UFC, Dana White, said multiple times that women will never have a spot in the UFC. And she said, wait a second, I was the first female medalist in judo. No one thought that was possible, and now I'm going to go and do something else because I see an opportunity. He says it can never be. She's like, well, we'll see. And she made it happen. And that's one, just gives her that extra boost of just to see how much she's accomplished because she's doing something that no one thought was possible. But on the other side is how much competition was there? Probably not that much. So if you do have the mental toughness and that fortitude and that inspiration and the vision to go and try something completely new, maybe there won't be any competition to hold you back when you get there. I don't know if that translates to her, but it's definitely...
Well, yeah, like finding new ground, like finding new places where you could put your time and your efforts into and make a difference. And she probably made a huge difference for just women in general who enjoyed martial arts. And now, ever since Ronda Rousey, they feel like, all right, it's possible to do this. Like, so like, she's just not an inspiration for success. She's an inspiration to others, that she showed others that they could also pursue their dreams. She was a visionary.
That's very true. And I do want to point out one thing that it's kind of a different train of thought. I'm going to talk about money for a second. Money matters. And a lot of people will say that it's very shallow to think about where am I going to get money from. But it's important. It's, hey, some people want to be able to make a living off their sport, and it's very hard to do so. There's a lot of athletes out there who are very, very good, NCAA champions, Olympians, who love their sport. They want to stay in it, but they can't find a way to make money from it. There's more than enough Olympic champions that are working out of some dungy dojo somewhere, or working out of some club or some boxing gym, and or having a rough time money-wise. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I can only relate to wrestling, but like wrestling at the end of the day is really just a pride sport. There's no money in it. It's just you're good at it or fantastic, great, and all you really can do, like highest level is Olympics, and even then, a gold medal only gets you $38,000.
Right.
you've been training for 2 years, paying for a gym, paying for a coach,
Right.
and now all you get from it is a gold medal, which is a great accomplishment, but only $38,000. You can barely feed yourself
Right.
on that.
And I mean, for judo, it's even worse because the government doesn't even subsidize your trips. A lot of times you're paying to go to competitions on your own. You are working side jobs. You're doing all of this, which I no skin off your back if that's what you're doing. But I think Ronda Rousey here's the thing: for people that are winners, people that are on top of the world, they know what they're doing. There's no way that she did this by accident. There's no way that she was doing judo, loved the sport, and then it was just like, did you watch the UFC fight? That would be cool. Like she didn't say it would be cool to be the best female UFC fighter today. That wasn't her mindset. She said, I want to be the best UFC fighter today. What do I have to do to get there? What is my 5-year plan? What is it going to take for me to get to that level? And when did she start winning in the UFC? 2015 is when she lost to Holly Holmes, but she was having fights maybe a couple years earlier. I don't know. But even if you said 2013, right? That's still 6 years of training. So for some of you listening, you might have overlooked the fact that is a very long time. That's 6 years of grinding. So at some point, she made a plan, a 5-year plan, a 6-year plan, a 10-year plan on what am I going to do to be the best. It doesn't just come lightly. It isn't just handed to you. She knew what she was doing. She was very calculated and realized that she had an opportunity to break barriers and to be the first and the best at something in a sport that everyone thought that women couldn't be part of.
Yeah, and it's really cool how she used her previous skills to go on to something new. Like, she went from judo, and she used her skills and just the mentality that she had while training for judo. She just transferred that over to MMA. She trained. She already had judo. I think she wrestled a little bit too. And she took that and used that to help her succeed in UFC, and then she even did that later on when she joined WWE.
We always talk about using the knowledge and the skills that you already have, and just taking advantage of them. And that's exactly what she did. She used that. I mean, there's a lot of judo players, and I don't think that barely any of them go, "Hey, what can I do with this?" Think about it. If you go and look at the percentage of judo players, wrestlers, or any other martial art that says, okay, how can I make a career out of this?
Almost all the time they just go into coaching.
Right.
And even then, I feel like for people who are gold medalists or just medalists, or even just went to the trials to go to the Olympics, like those people are very good at their sport, and I just feel like they have way more potential than that. They have. They have the potential to do way more, and they're just settling.
Right. I kind of want to look at it from a straight business perspective. Just if you're just talking money, you're just talking business. You know, what she thought was, hey, I see that the majority of people in the sports of judo and wrestling, even in jiu-jitsu, is getting bigger. But if you're just simply a judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu coach, you are not going to be making a lot of money. And she said, hey, I care a lot about these sports. I love fighting, but I also would like to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a smart way to think. And she said, where's their money? Well, right now there is a lot of money in UFC. A huge amount of money in UFC. So she said, okay, well, how do I get there? And another thing where we talked about there being lesser competition in a sport that you're growing that is new, or if you're going to start something new, a lot of times if no one's really doing it, then there's not a lot of competition. She probably thought of that too. She said, hey, I'm one badass motherfucker, and I am an expert in already one fighting sport. There is no female MMA people really right now, at least no one on the map, so the competition is probably going to be a lot less. And if I'm going to look at it from a business perspective and where can I start to kind of corner in on that success and the kind of the allure of MMA that is today, then maybe that's where she had to be. And she made it happen. I mean, think about it. How come there's no women's NFL? It doesn't make any sense to me because I know in high school, at least in my high school, they would have the powder puff football, which is what they called it, but they would have all the girls playing football, and then the dudes would dress up as cheerleaders and cheer them on, and everyone loved that shit. It was amazing. It was funny. It was cool, and I mean, you know, for all the reasons that men enjoyed that kind of stuff, it was very interesting.
Oh yeah, and one of the things I remember most from those games is the girls seemed more competitive than guys were in their games. Like I don't remember a single year when they were doing that where you didn't see girls start fighting or
chicks. They're trying to prove themselves. These girls are trying to prove themselves. They're trying to prove that, one, they ain't gonna go out there and roll over, and two, that hey, you know what, girls can do it too. And there's a lot of things that girls can do it too. And there's a lot of things in society that definitely there's this assumption that they can't. And yeah, maybe a girl can't go into the male NFL and stand a chance, but why not make a girl version? There's a girl version of everything else. Why can't there be a girl version of the National Football League? I guarantee you it would be very successful. You know, but that's that barrier that wasn't broken. But that was a barrier that Ronda Rousey said, hey, why not?
Well, yeah.
People,
all it takes is someone to want to be like a visionary like Ronda was. Mm-hmm. No one thought women's MMA would be successful, and that's probably part of the reason why the owners said, no, it's not going to happen.
I know a lot of people who love women MMA fighters more than some guys. Like, they go, this is my girl, like, this is my favorite fighter, and I love this. And so, I don't know, maybe it just takes someone to have a dream. Maybe, and that's why I'm saying that I think that she's so unique, is that it spans so much more than being good at something or having some level of skills. She straight had a vision, and she took it to the chin, and she took any sort of complaints or any sort of ridicule that was given, saying women can't do this, and she also just kept pushing on and creating something out of nothing. She created the women's MMA community. Yeah,
and she did that with basically nothing there to begin with. She created something out of nothing.
Right. It means, and part of it is, don't fit a mold. Do not fit a mold. There's a lot of you out there listening to this that think you're incapable of doing something. You're saying that, hey, it's just not going to happen. For whatever reason, whether it's some sort of cultural thing, whether it's the area you grew up in, whether it's, you know, some sort of thing that you consider a disability for yourself or something that you're not good at, you think that therefore I can't, I have to fit a certain mold, or I can't do something in specific, and you can, because she did it, and there's people doing it every day.
Well, yeah, like society set a set of rules out there, right, and now everyone just follows by it, and they don't look to, I don't know, better it. They don't look to break the rules or bend the rules, and I don't know. That's what she did, and she was able to create a whole new industry practically.
You even look at this wedding we were at. I mean, Nick didn't go to the actual wedding part, but the priest, he could not speak. I thought it was a different language, and he'd had a stroke. Like I'm telling you, the groom, literally when he was given the vows, the groom looked around and said, "What are you saying?" Like 4 times. Like, we could not understand what this guy was saying, and he's an ordained pastor who reads people their vows when he can't speak English. So if he can do that, if he can be reading vows when he doesn't even know how to speak, then you can do something that you don't have a current skill in.
Yeah, and I don't know about the priest in this scenario. I don't know how much work. He's probably put a lot of work into his ordained career, but I don't know. He went for it. I think that's the most important part. He went for it. He tried his best.
Right.
And that's what Ronda did, and that's what everyone else can do. that's the main point. Just go out there and put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not think it's possible, but putting in the work is the most important part.
I agree. There's one thing that I do find kind of interesting is with Ronda, she transfer skills, right? She spent her entire younger life training in judo, so she was transferring skills to a new sport. But for a lot of those girls, when you see them coming out of the woodwork now, that the road has been paved, a lot of them have been fighting for a while. And something that really inspires me is that these girls were fighting even though there was seemingly no chance of recognition or success. And that's very hard. People are social by nature. They thrive and drive for social acceptance and recognition in general. It's not a bad thing. You just want to be you want your successes to be recognized. And the fact that was a lot of girls that were fighting even with seemingly no chance of ever actually making it into an octagon, it's kind of inspiring. I mean, when you think, it's kind of like how the military doesn't get very much credit. There's been some movies coming out that'll show some of the special forces in action. You'll see you have Lone Survivor, you have 12 Strong, you have all of these movies coming out, and yeah, maybe the realistic nature of it is kind of altered, but that's for a reason, to protect some of these people that are doing these jobs. But they get no credit, and they're working every day of their lives, making huge sacrifices, and also risking their lives for something that they might not ever be recognized for. And that's why they get a lot of credit. And it's interesting when you see someone like that, like these girls on maybe a slightly lesser level of sacrifice, but at the same time, they're training for a goal that they might not ever be acknowledged for.
Well, yeah, like if you look back 10 years ago from now, there was still a lot of females training to do judo and mixed martial arts and all that. And at then, like, the idea of being in MMA was non-existent. So they were just doing it for fun, or like, what do you think? They were just doing it just to know the skills, or they actually wanted to succeed in it, but there was an obstacle, and then someone would.
Right.
Someone paved the road for them.
I think that they had a passion, and they had a drive for that passion, and their passion was fighting. So they were willing to fight without any recognition. That's all it was. So that's where their credit comes. And then what they needed, though, was a movement to kind of set them free and to kind of create that path for them to start being successful. So Ronda Rousey was that movement. Ronda Rousey was the girl who saw maybe a lesser value in the fighting community towards women and realized, hey, there's a lot of these people in here, these girls being badass, and they're not getting a fair shake. Who's going to change that for them? And she saw herself as the person that can do that. Or even if she didn't see herself, she was the person. Maybe in her head, maybe all she saw was, hey, I want to be the best. I want to break barriers. Maybe it wasn't like helping the other girls out, but at the end of the day, it did. It did. There's nothing wrong with helping people, even if that's not your only single goal. You know what I mean? Not everyone's going to be MLK. Not everyone's going to change the world through kindness and just be an absolute superhuman who just will literally sacrifice their life for others. That's not always going to be the case, but if the end result is that, you still get a little bit of credit for it, and I think that that's what she was doing. I mean, you look at Amelia Earhart, I don't know if her goal was to to open up a movement for women to fly. I think she just really loved to fucking fly.
Yeah, and well, it's crazy now that women flying is the norm, Like, back when she was flying, that was like, that's crazy. But she broke barriers. She was first woman to fly over the Atlantic, right?
Right. And when you look at it, and it's definitely not crazy for women to be flying now.
Oh yeah, no. I know. What's crazy is that women weren't allowed to fly, and then.
Right, I know what you mean. But what I'm trying to say here is, okay, if all of this stuff that at one point used to be crazy, if this is what you're trying to say, is now normal, what now seems crazy that can be normal in the future? What now seems unattainable that you're really interested in? One of you out there listening thinks that, oh, this would be awesome, but it just doesn't seem attainable because the movement hasn't happened or it's just not available yet.
Or it seems too hard.
It seems too hard. Why? Maybe you be the person to be that movement. You can be the person to start it off, because there's a lot of people out there, especially with the advent of the internet. There's a lot of hobbies out there that are very weird that I'm sure when the people were doing it before the internet didn't think that there was others out there that would be interested. Mm-hmm. But they're out there. There's people out there for anything. If you think you're crazy because you have an interest, I can promise you that there's other people out there that have that same interest. You're not the craziest person on earth. That's for sure.
Yeah, no. I'd be hard pressed to find. Well, actually, I gotta disagree with what you're saying. I can't think of anyone who's interested in watercoloring. That just sounds outrageous to me.
Underwater basket weaving. But even then, there's college instructors getting paid to teach underwater basket weaving. So, even if the end state might be useless, you can still find a way to make money off it and to make it a business and turn your hobby into a career. Someone's going to pay you for it, whether it's a delusional college student who just is trying to have fun and may think that underwater basket weaving, the career, might be available one day. I don't know.
That's just it's a full-blown college major at some schools. That's crazy.
Watercoloring. Hey, watercoloring was fun. We did that when we were kids.
Yeah, as kids.
Yeah. Hey, who knows? Someone makes a storage room full of watercolor paintings, and maybe they make no money, but one of their descendants finds it, turns it famous, and makes a ton of money. There's a lot of painters out there who had no money, and now their paintings are worth millions and millions of dollars.
But back to Ronda Rousey. Got a little off topic there. Well, so I don't know. This is just something else about Ronda. Is just her transition to like acting and all that. Like, so she got her fame and all that from her mixed martial arts and just being a badass. But she didn't have to transition to movies and WWE. But she it's not really a skill, but she took the fame she had. She took something that she had, and she was able to grow it even more.
Right. So there's twofold here. One, UFC is a very popular sport right now. It's probably one of the most. So by being the best in UFC, you gain popularity. So inherently, she was a celebrity before she even transitioned out of the MMA and the UFC. That's one. Just she had a high level of opportunity to move into other things. And two, maybe she just thought, wow, I just did another. There's my second thing. Let me add another. And it's really just the idea of having the confidence to go and try something new. And she realized, well, I guess I'm unstoppable. So let me just keep trying something else that's new and new and new. And now she has like 5 different things that she's doing that all interest her. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's just been tearing life up. And I think it all comes down to the mindset.
It's all mindset. It's all
mental. I remember one of my wrestling captains used to always say that.
It's true.
It's all mental.
It's all in your head.
They ran practice for, I think, 2 days, and then the coach said, that's a little much.
Yeah. But if you want to be the first person to go to college in your family, you do that. I actually have some views of college that we can get to in the future. But if you're going to be the first, go do it. Get a degree that matters and start pushing your family forward. If you want to be the best at a sport, start training now, because the only person that can get you there is you. You're the only person that can put in work to get there. And if you want to make $1 million, there's nothing wrong or evil with that. There was 700,000 new millionaires created in 2017, and none of them were taking advantage or harming people in the way they did it. It's all small business owners who are adding to the workforce and adding to society.
Yeah, and the first step is to take action.
Right.
Or And Ronda's, she took action. Then freedom of thought. She had the idea. She had the thinking, the thought of changing the sport, revolutionizing the way people viewed women's fighting and all that.
And you guys can do it too. And you can always come back for a little bit of motivation, a little bit of skills, and a little bit of guidance that we provide here on the next big world-changing
podcast.
Yeah. News agency, life-changing mentorship coach, and whatever else Freedom Empowered will become, because with the help of our listeners and the guidance of the people that we study here on Freedom Empowered, and just the badass motivation that me and Nick bring to you twice a week, we'll all be ended up in great places.
Yeah.
But that's all we got for you guys today. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.